The 9 Years Podcast.
Alright, welcome to the 9 Years Podcast with myself, Nick Draper and Stuart Deacon. Thank you very much for listening to this week's show, whether you're joining us on iTunes, YouTube, soundcloud.com or podomatic.com, and if you have downloaded us via iTunes, please just whack us a 5-star rating on the feedback section there and help us boost our profile even further than it already is. This week we'll be making predictions for the end of the season, and Stuart and I will be announcing who we think will be getting promotion from League 2 and also finding themselves falling through the trapdoor into the conference. We'll also be looking at some of the other hot sort of relegation promotion issues throughout the Football League. Alongside this week with the usual features, we'll be looking at the Luton game from last week, looking ahead to next week's fixtures where we've got games up against Barnet and Carlisle. Stu will be updating us on our loan players who are currently elsewhere in the non-league pyramid and the academy sides, birthdays game and unnecessary censors as well. But we start, as we mostly do every week, with a little teaser, which I like to give to Stu, and of course you can have a think along throughout the show. In answer to this one, it came to my attention during the game at Luton on Saturday when we went 4-0 up quite early into the second half. I thought, what was our biggest win in the Football League? Our biggest margin of victory? And I can tell you now, that margin of victory is 4-0, but we've done it twice. As AFC Wimbledon this is, of course. Stu, I'd just like to think, who were the opponents for our two 4-0 Football League victories?
I know one. I can remember one straight off the top of my head.
Yes, one comes to mind straight away, doesn't it?
Second one, I'm going to have to think about.
The second one does take a little bit more thought and a little bit of raiding the memory banks for that one. Well, before we get into actually the result of Luton on the weekend, Stuart's half-term this week.
Yay!
Yes, you say yes and yay. Today, this Thursday, is actually I think the first day that I'm not going to be doing any work whatsoever in my half-term holiday. It is ridiculous. How's your work been? Does it quieten down a little bit for you in your line of work at this time of year, or we'll get busier?
Mine's the same all the way through, to be fair. But I try to do as little as possible. Through my experience through the years, I've managed the art of looking like I'm busy, when really I'm just looking on Twitter. So I've heard. You have turned that into an art form. Sadly, I can't do that in my job. Anyway, let's get on to the Luton game on Saturday. Big 4-1 victory, great performance, but Stu, was the game really won in the 10-minute spell before and after half-time? Yeah, possibly. They had an early possession, didn't they, against us, and never really got in behind us. But the set piece is really Sweeney's set piece where it got on the end of a Frankham corner and it ricocheted off someone, did, and then Luton over just out. But probably Lyle Taylor's double, really, sort of after Sweeney's goal. I think the one that he scored, or the bunches we scored, to be fair, Rigg and Taylor after half time, you can just see it in the faces, especially when Lyle scored his fourth. They all looked at each other and their heads were down and it was game over. But I just felt that for all Luton's possession, a lot of times you look at restarts. The restarts for games are massive, and we'll obviously go on to George a little bit later, but he did come with 2 assists, and it's key for us on the restarts.
Yeah, George Frankham got 2 assists. He is much maligned, George Frankham, as I'm now going to call him, as he is not a fan favourite at the moment, and normally a misplaced pass from him gets about 100 times the grief from the Tempest or Kempler than any other player. Is he being unfairly treated by our fans?
It's a weird one, because I wouldn't say George had a great season. He's not I think there's been a couple of times where I think if we'd had decent competition for him, that we probably should have replaced him. And just giving him that kick up the backside, really. I think every footballer now needs, look at the competition we've got for the front 2 places. They're egging each other on, but I don't think Frankham's had that. Possibly now you could argue he's got in with Dave Fitzpatrick's coming in, but I don't think George has had that. And yeah, I think the crowd have got on his back. I don't see the point of that, I really don't. I hear comments of Mr. First Man and Mr. First Man. Saturday we had 12 corners, 12 set pieces, and also a number of free kicks. And of course George not taken them all. But if you look at what he's created 2 goals and also a great free kick in the first half where he literally reversed the free kick into who then headed across goals. So I don't get it with George. I think he's just become an easy target. But in my opinion, yes, he needs competition. I don't think he should be a first on your team sheet. But I also think for our restarts, there's probably not many better we've got in the team with that sort of delivery, barring probably someone like Reeves or Callum.
Well, yeah, Jake Reeves, obviously. Yeah, Neil Loddy said people underestimate, in his post-match interview, he said people underestimate how good a player George Frankham is. I know every now and then he does not get his set pieces right, and there are moans and groans, but he can fill in at right back and does not look out of place. He can also go into central midfield and does a good job for the team. He went into central midfield, did he not, on Saturday when we had to adjust after Jake Reeves' injury?
Yeah, and I probably would disagree. With New Orleans. I didn't think he had a great game in the middle. Yeah, set pieces wise, where we won the game, but I thought the legs around there. I thought Luton in some situations bossed it around Frankham, and he was chasing his shadow a lot of times. Which is a shame because we've seen him play a bit further forward. We play in the diamond. We've seen him play a bit sort of more in these sort of central areas. He's done all right, but I don't know if it was a heavy pitch. It was, it did look heavy on Saturday. I wouldn't say he done great, but I do understand what Neil says in terms of, yes, he can fill in at right back. That's where he was on when he was at Norwich. He was a right back. He can play right midfield. We can chuck him in the centre. He has that adaptability, obviously, like the Means has and stuff like that. So I can see why he's so well thought of. But like I said, I'm with a lot of people that I think he needs competition. But I just don't get the sense. I think Neil Hardy understands and can hear the moans and groans on the back of George's work, and I think that's probably why the comment was made in his after-match interview.
A player who got a lot of plays almost unanimously was Ryan Sweeney. Looked comfortable coming in, growing in confidence as a centre-half. Still only 18. I tend to forget that.
I think we all do, to be fair. I think we all forget, he's in the under-19s at the moment, isn't he, with Ireland, and looks like a men against boys when you see a team shot. We've said that many times, haven't we? But, yeah, he come in, and I don't know about you, but you and I never went, Sweeney's playing, what we're going to do. Never really felt like we were, are we going to be under pressure today? Because he was up against some good forwards in terms of Benson and McCall Smith. Let's not forget, that's not a bad strike force, but never felt he looked under any pressure. He won most of the headies he had to. The good thing about it was that Robbo and Danny Bournemouth were just brilliant around him, always encouraging him, never making it out that they were panicking about him being in there, really just guiding him through the game. And I hope now it's obvious that we're going to the loan market. That's obvious because we will have to. We've only two centre halves, but I would hope that Sweety's done enough to keep his place, and I think he indicated just as much in his Don's player interview after the game.
Someone else who looked set to keep their place, Kelly Roos, who had a solid debut.
I thought Roos had a great debut. An interesting character, like I said to you, I've been down a training ground last Tuesday week. And he just was, his banter's good, he looks confident, assured, just the size, he's just a presence, isn't he? And, I laughed at the beginning of the game, the crowd, got behind him straight away. It was interesting, I don't know if you noticed, but he sort of started pointing to parts of his goal as if, to behave themselves. It was very much an interesting pre-match ritual, but he's interesting character throughout the game for the first 10 minutes. If you, I don't know, on Sky Sports, they do the map of hot points where the players touched in certain areas of the pitch.
The heat map, yeah.
The heat map. I would lay money he probably spent more time out the area than he did it in the area in the first 10 minutes. He was very much looking for the ball over the top, sweeper keeper in any sense of the word you've seen. But he was just commanding presence, and you can see why we've got him, and you can see why we chucked him straight in as well.
What did we make then of Luton as a team? Obviously, I have to have a Luton angle on this, as you know, with my allegiances. But what did you think of them? Because I think a lot of people commented to me after the game that they weren't very impressed. I didn't think Luton were too bad at all. Actually, I think 4-1, slightly harsh reflection on them. They passed the ball very, very well, technically very good. Seemed to lack a little bit of cutting edge, but then they did get in behind us on a couple of occasions as well. Scored a great goal. They're not going to be obviously challenged. They're not going to put a run together now under their new manager, but you would expect them to be performing better, wouldn't you?
Well, you've got to look at their team. To be fair, if we'd touted around 4-1 didn't seem a fair. I'd argue that if you look at the chances on goal, I probably would say it would. We had good chances against them. I look at Luton, I look at their midfield with McCourt, McGeehan, Howes. You look at that and you think, I'll take McCourt all day long. McGeehan, I think, is a great player.
Yeah, he is.
I really do. Should get his haircut, because sometimes you can get him confused with McCall Smith.
You're just jealous.
Probably. McCall Smith was my biggest disappointment. It's just like he's going through the motions. Yeah. I remember him, a Danny Kebble character, chasing lost causes, being a nuisance. Sweeney, I feel like McCall Smith 2 years ago, Sweeney would have known he's been in the game, but he's dealt with McCall Smith easily, and it wasn't a surprise to see him come off at half-time. I just think if you look at Luton's record, they are sitting 14th in the league at the moment. 31 games, they've already lost 13 games with them. I find it amazing, a team of Luton's quality, to be that poor in a league and they've got a bit of a rebuilding job to do now.
So let's tidy up the game then. Man of the match, or we should say, we tend to call it our hero of the week, don't we, as opposed to man of the match, but hero of the week?
Mine was a close one. I've gone for Lyle Taylor, just because, the 2 goals he got on the weekend bring him up to 13 goals now, which is a great return. I thought he was run very closely by Andy Bartram. Everything we did well on the weekend, Bartram was involved, and the second goal against Luton I love, just for the fact of our left-hand side now, Meads and Bartram basically just playing lob balls over, and Andy Bartram's lob was just superb into the area. He's come back into form now, Andy Bartram, and he's pivotal to us at the moment. He's a massive player. So mine would go to Lyle Taylor, but I'd say there's a few there that run him close.
Lyle Taylor won our man of the match Twitter poll. Lyle Taylor 42%, Jonathan Mead got 30% of the vote, Barry Fuller and George Frankham sort of 15% and 13% respectively. You're going to probably struggle for a villain of the week this week. I have someone or some people in mind.
I can't think of any, so...
It just struck me that with about 5 minutes to go of the game on Saturday, obviously Luton fans were heading for the exits at this point, and I mean, I'm never one for leaving any game early, but you can sort of understand that one. But then big chunks of the home ends were also disappearing. Lots of fans making their way to the exit, so lots of empty seats in both the John Green and the main stand. Lots of people streaming past us, coming through from the John Smiths, whatever it's called now, past the Tempest end. I didn't understand the logic. It's not often that we win quite so comfortably at home. An opportunity to applaud the players off the pitch wasn't taken by a majority. It just seems a strange one for me.
Yeah, do you know what? It's interesting you say that, because the game finished, and it's always interesting to see what end they go to first in terms of applauding the fans. Of course, the game finished up in front of John Green's stand. But Dilwadi was the first one to come over. Yeah, as he started clapping the fans, if you looked over to John Smith, what's it called now? It's called the Go Travel now, isn't it? Oh, we should know these. We should know all these stats.
The Your Golf Travel, I think.
Your Golf Travel. Sorry.
Yeah.
There was hardly anyone over that side, and it was just like, yeah, don't get me wrong, I get that people want to get out. It's not. Let's be fair. It's not the easiest ground to get out of. So I do appreciate some people do like to avoid it, but I just thought after that performance, they surely deserved them to hang around and give them applause. But now I can see where you're coming from, mate. But it happens everywhere now. So maybe we're just attracting those Premiership fans who can't get into Premiership grounds, and maybe just their habits, are just with them. It
did strike me, I must admit, during the game, considering we were 4-1 up, the atmosphere it wasn't particularly fantastic at all. Really, the 4-0 scoreline didn't really rouse the Kemplo end from its slumber. And I'm just thinking, with every passing game, I'm just thinking we need to get out of Kingsmeadow. We are desperate to get away now and get a proper... I say this with all due respect to Kingsmeadow, but it is a proper stadium, because it's not really fit for purpose anymore.
No, I agree, but also, just quickly before we go, the biggest news, of course, on the day was the yellow and blue nets. How can we forget that?
How can we forget that? Well, hopefully they'll come with us to New Plough Lane. I imagine they will.
I hope so. Just to say, Rocket, I know Rocket listens all the time, and Trev, and I'm just surprised we didn't put green nets in, do you know what I mean? Because home colours at home? What's that all about?
What is it all about? I'm surprised we weren't playing in green, because Luton managed to wear their home colours for an away fixture.
Wow.
It can be done. It can be done. Right, we'll finish this off. We do our hashtag Don's 3-word report. You give us your match reports in 3 words. We went this week for Taylor Outworks Hatters. You see a bit of a sort of a millinery sort of type gag there we went for. Lots of people replied to us this week on Twitter and Facebook. Top 3, it was a tributary one. I'll go for Phil Day at Happy Plums. Well, okay. Okay, Phil. Whatever does it for you. He went confident keeper settled. A slightly different one than the rest, so we enjoyed that one. Quite loads on Facebook, a lot of them referencing Andy Bartram, actually, like you did, Stu. Stuart Young on Facebook went for New Nets Golf Fest. I thought that might make you smile.
Like that.
Yeah. Ray Armfield, again, though, friend of the show, probably winning us there with a nice little Luton reference. Bring me sunshine. Very nicely done, Ray. Very, very clever. Although we had some honourable mentions that I do want to mention this week. Ray's wife, actually, Sharon, selling programmes. You will probably see her every home game outside the main entrance to the main stand, selling programmes. She simply put cold, wet programmes. The weather was not the greatest to be selling programmes. Unsheltered as well. I'm sure someone could have found her some sort of cover to stand under.
Just very quickly, actually, I spoke to Sharon after the game. We were in the back bar, obviously waiting for the man of the match presentation, and she said she had about 3 layers on. I think she had 3 layers on top half and bottom half, and she was still cold. And yeah, she does a great job along with all the other volunteers, and she's always there outside the President Lounge entrance. But yeah, it was proper cold on the weekend, wasn't it?
Well, it got warm. Bizarrely, it got warmer and lighter as the game went on. It was a very strange atmosphere. Last one, I'd say another honourable mention, because we mentioned George Frankham earlier. Jerzy Jabrowski on Facebook. Frankham gets assist. Well, we could change that to assists, but actually, Jerzy quite right to point this one out for much maligned, as he is now known, George Frankham. Right, Stu, what do you want to update us with then on other sort of squad matters? Players out on loan. We've got 3 players out on loan at the moment. What can you tell us about those players?
Good weekend for them, really. Hampton drew 1 each at Hendon. Got a 1-1 draw. Both McDonnell and Sombeer both got 90 minutes, which you probably would expect. Not going to suffer a goalkeeper unless he's that bad. But yeah, Sombeer hit a post from a free kick. So he's obviously got a free kick duties there, and right. So, but interestingly, the goal for Hendon was a corner not cleared and a close range finish. So, without any footage, you're not too sure how McDonald done, but I'm sure he's getting some good stuff in there. And Tunbridge won at home 2-0 against Staines Town, our old favourites down at Staines, and Ben Harrison got 90 minutes. So, good for them. I was just looking at the league table. Hampton are top in that league at the moment, with Tunbridge in 4th. So, interestingly, both the players compete against each other. And looking at the fixtures, for those of you not going to Barnet on Saturday, Tunbridge are down at Kingsonians. So Ben Harrison will be familiar with his surroundings. And then the weekend after, they face each other. Tunbridge are at home to Hampton. So that'd be interesting, being on opposing sides. But it's good for them. Like I said, they're not just playing in a lone game at any old team. They are playing at top of the tables, and I think that's always encouraging for when they come back to us, just as much as Fitzpatrick found it when he come back from Tunbridge after 7 games. So all good with the loans out.
I still think Tunbridge Angels to me sounds like some sort of stationery shop. I'm also wondering, how long did it take you to find out the results of Hampton and Richmond this week, considering you probably spent about 20 minutes getting frustrated at the lack of Hampton and Redbridge information?
Yeah, well, the thing was, actually, is I followed them on Twitter. So
Hampton and Redbridge?
Well, Hampton and Richmond, yeah, I followed them on Twitter and Tunbridge. So, yeah, to be fair, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. You can't get any footage, although I've not tried YouTube just yet. But Hampton seem quite switched on with their sort of social side and stuff like that. So, yeah, no, you follow them on Twitter, but they seem to be doing well. Like I say, I think we're at home to Oxford when Hampton, Richmond and Tunbridge play each other. So, just wonder whether sort of, it's a shame it wasn't at Hampton. Actually, it is at Tunbridge, so it's a shame it wasn't at Hampton, because they could maybe put a kick-off to like 11 o'clock so we can go and watch it. Yeah,
I think that would be very unlikely, Stu. It's good to see that you've still got your healthy interest in beavers on Twitter.
Always have.
Anything about the academy teams you can update us with?
Sorry, academy, yeah. So academy started in soon. So the league structure, I'm not 100% on how it happens, but it splits. The Merit League splits into 2 parts. So you have finished top and finishes bottom half. So we went into the top half and we played Portsmouth on Saturday. And what a game it was. 1-0 up. They went 1-0 down, the under 18s. They were 3-1 up. Went back to 3-0. We went 5-3 up. Made, I believe, 8 substitutions, which is unbelievable at that level, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? A whole new team, really. Which we do. We always make sure the players get as much game time as they can. But finished 5-5.
Wow.
So if anyone went down to that game on the weekend, they'd have got, a lot of goals, and they'd probably come up to watch the first team. But Jadon Antwi got a couple of goals. He is on his way back from injury at the moment. He come on for the Chelsea game late on. He got 2. Rhys Bowers got 1. Sean McClipp, who's highly rated by quite a few, got a goal, and David Omprion got the last one. So, other ratings are doing well. I'm not too sure. The fixtures were about, but they're not on the official site at the moment. So, I will try and keep everyone updated. So I think there's quite a lot of interest in the under 18s at the moment.
Hi, I'm Seb Brown, and you're listening to the 9 Years podcast, available every Thursday on iTunes and YouTube.
We're looking ahead now then, after our good run of form over the last couple of months, really, to how we think we're going to do come the end of the season. Where will we end up when the final league table is published? And we're also looking at how League 2 might look as a whole. We did our sort of season preview show before our ball was kicked, and some media pundits had predicted that Oxford United would be looking to be at the top of the table, and we rubbished these claims. We quite confidently predicted that Oxford under Michael Appleton would be nowhere near the promotion shake-up, and here we are. They're looking very good bets to go up. They had another good win on the weekend. They're in touching distance at the top of the league. Let's start there. Stu, will Oxford earn an automatic promotion spot at the end of the season?
Yeah, you look at the moment, they went to Morecambe 1-4-2 and look comfortable. They're doing really well, and it's obviously a lot of it's around Ruth, who's doing quite well. Our player Danny Hilton, who's scored a bucket loads for them. But they just had quality all around the pitch. So I can't see Oxford not. And to be fair, look at the top three. I think the top three very much are settled in terms of that would be how it will finish at the end of the season, in my opinion. I don't think anyone's going to touch them. It's probably just the order. Although Northampton Town have been top of the form league for probably the last 4, 5, 6 weeks. So unless they start coming down the bang, I think they're going to romp it. It's Plymouth and Oxford finding out for the runners-up spot, I think.
Northampton have won something ridiculous like 11 of their last 12 league games. It's incredible run of form they're on.
Possibly. If you look at out of 29 games, they've won 20. That's crazy. That's crazy. And like I say, the form table at the moment, they're top of that unsurprisingly, but they've kept 3 clean sheets out of the last 6, only conceded 3. So they're scoring goals, but they're pretty mean at the back as well. So Chris Wilder's doing a very good job there, and I don't know if anyone's seen their goals against Leyton Orient on the weekend, but Ricky Holmes has scored an absolute beauty for them. So
they've got 3 attacking players there that are really on form at the moment, haven't they? They've obviously brought in James Collins in the transfer window, scoring goals. Mark Richards always a threat, and as you say, Ricky Holmes. So I don't see Northampton slipping away. I can't see them collapsing at this point. I mean, they're 15 points clear of the team in 4th as it stands. Yeah. They can't surely throw that away.
No, and like we said at the beginning of the season, didn't we? We fancied Northampton just because of Mark Richards. Just scores goals. He just does what it says on the tin. The old thing, isn't he? He just scores basic League 2 goals and does it very well. I said a couple of weeks ago when they brought in James Collins from Shrewsbury that was a buy that would probably tie the league for him, because I think he was brilliant for Shrewsbury when they went up, and I can't understand why Shrewsbury are letting him go. I think it is financial, but they won't admit that at the moment. And Ricky Holmes, who just seems to be, we're interested in him before he went to Northampton as well, before he went to Barnet, if we remember properly, don't we? So we know him from the Chelmsford days, and I'm surprised really he's still doing as well as he has, but he got the player of the month, didn't he, for January, so he's obviously doing a lot right in his goal weekend against a sorry Orient team who we get on to, but they're going to drop out, and I've proven my theory right that you may have good players, but doesn't mean a good player becomes a great manager in Kevin Nolan.
Yeah, it's early days though, Stu, to be fair to him.
Look at the results, and I think the Leyton Orient fans will be looking at the moment and thinking, did we do right? I just think you're chancing. You're very much chancing that, and they sit mid-table in the form guide at the moment, and I just don't think it's a great decision personally, but I may be wrong on that.
Like Luton have taken a bit of a gamble with Nathan Jones coming in, but they're in a position now where they're probably not realistically thinking of challenging for promotion, whereas Leyton Orient are in a position where they're very much in the mix. So it was a big gamble putting Kevin Nolan in there, but there we go. We've said then, I think I'm in agreement with you, Northampton, Plymouth and Oxford, I can't see them throwing it away. I think they will just go from strength to strength, and they will be the top 3 come the end of the season. So let's look at then the 4 places beneath that, the playoff positions which we're looking to break into. We're 4 points, as it stands, behind Wycombe, who are in 4th, and we've got a game in hand. But everyone's on a different number of games. It's going to take a while before it sort of evens itself out and gives a real clear picture. But the first question is, Stu, will we be taking one of those playoff spots?
Judging by the fact I'm always very optimistic, it's probably not a surprise. I think yes, I will. I think we will do. Form-wise, interesting. Neil Udley a little while ago started talking about points per game, and it was like a bit points per game. What we're about, but it's a heavy thing that people look at the moment. And if you look at points per game at the moment, we're taking for the last 6, we're taking 2.5 points per game, which is pretty impressive. For the season, we are on 1.55 points per game. So realistically, I think, if I remember properly, he said you need to look at sort of 1.7, 1.8. We're gradually improving that. I think we're edging. My gut feeling at the moment is that I think Accrington will stay in there. I can't see. I've been thinking all season, probably along as Leicester. Leicester will drop out of the Premiership top of the table, but Accrington again come from behind against Crawley. win their home games, doing very well. No pressure on them, really. No pressure. You know, they get 1,000, 1,500 at home game. There's just no pressure. It's just very much as it is with Accrington. I've got a feeling that we will sneak in the last available position, and my tip is Pompey 4th, Rovers 5th, Accrington 6th, and us creeping in last.
Well, this is interesting because I must admit I've not really settled on who I think the 4 teams will be, although I am pretty sure that Bristol Rovers and Portsmouth, my gut feeling is that they will be in the playoffs. They are massive clubs, really, to be involved in. What happens if the 4 are the 4 that you suggest, including ourselves and Accrington? Do ourselves and Accrington have an advantage there because the pressure isn't there for us?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. If you're looking, obviously, the way it will work, it will be 4th will play 7th and 5th will play 6th. So realistically, we don't want to be playing Pompey in a playoff semi-final because I think that's the toughest to do.
It's the toughest assignment away from home, certainly.
Yeah, so I think if you look at the league table at the moment, it's pretty open for us to really challenge Pompey. There's nothing saying that we couldn't get in a 4th place. Unrealistic for us to believe we can get into 3rd. That's just not going to happen, I don't believe. But if you look at where the table is, I think Wickham will drop out. I don't think Wickham are that great this season. I think losing Ingram to QPR has lost them a real big platform on the back there. But I reckon we're sneaking. I thought myself, yeah, we'd be 5th or 6th, but I thought, you know what? No, realistically, we're not going to win all our games. We're probably just creeping in last place. But I would rather play Accrington. And if anyway, depends how it happens, doesn't it, how the games work. But I think if we played Accrington in the semi-final, I'd fancy us.
Well, yeah. Wow. Imagine we got to the playoffs and we played Accrington Stanley. It just doesn't. With all due respect, they're doing fantastic. But they are surely overachieving. Well, they are overachieving. I predicted them to go down this season, by the way, just to point that one out. At the start of the season, I said that Accrington, looking at their squad, were going to struggle big time because I didn't see much quality in that, other than Billy Key, who I thought might be key, sorry for the pun, in helping score the goals to keep them up.
Yeah.
Here we are now potentially suggesting we could meet them in the playoffs if they can carry on. They've got a lot of games in hand as well. Another team that have games in hand, 2 games in hand on us especially, and they play us this coming week, is Carlisle. There's enough about them for me to suggest that they could be in the mix.
Yeah, I'm not overly too sure, to be fair. It's interesting because I think, unfortunately, all the floods and that have done them no favours because they've lost a bit of that impetus that they had. Their top goal scorer as well hasn't scored for a little while. I'm not going to try and embarrass myself and try and pronounce his name, but he's the actual Colchester forward. He's dropped off a little bit recently scoring. Interesting fixture-wise, obviously Carlisle have got quite a few games coming up, and they travel, they've got a midweek game coming up, so they travel into Accrington on Tuesday night. So both Accrington and Carlisle have got 2 games in hand on us. I personally would rather Accrington win and really just take away the threat from Carlisle, and I think Carlisle will fade away without a fight, personally. That's what I'm hoping, because obviously we play Carlisle, Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah. What about Mansfield then? Why aren't we thinking Mansfield? Who, they're up there. Why are we not thinking they'll stay there?
I just didn't think. Against us, I wasn't overly impressed. I thought we were better than most over the pitch, really. I didn't think much of them, to be truthful. And on the weekend, they lost as well, didn't they? So they had a 3-0 loss at Plymouth, who really haven't been. Plymouth at the moment are the team that you would fancy Oxford would probably catch and get second place. Plymouth, their manager this week has been moaning about the transfer window and the emergency loan window, saying that he doesn't think it doesn't help settle teams, and also means that people can just go in and get loan signings. But interestingly, on the back of this was before they won against Mansfield, and just interesting, maybe he's feeling a bit of pressure, because strange comment to make, really, unless you feel a bit of pressure yourself.
There's definitely pressure on them to get promoted now, really. They're too big a club not to be.
Big time, yeah.
Yeah, massively. Bottom of the table, Dagenham and York currently the ones looking most likely, but Yeovil and Hartlepool, I think, realistically, are the only other ones in the mix. I think Newport should be all right now, picking up a bit of momentum. Stevenage, with the signing of Byron Harrison, should be fine. No one else, I think, should really get sucked in. I think they're too far apart now. So, who do you think? Are Yeovil doomed, or are they going to survive?
No, I hinted to it the other week. I've got a good friend who lives down in Yeovil, and he was talking to me about a few players they got coming back. A few of them who are Championship made championship appearances and rated very highly. I just looked at them. They play against us. Yeah, I know we had a bad day, but normally our bad days we still do pick up some points, and I think the overall got enough about them to get out of that. I think Dagenham, I can't see John Steele working his magic. That's probably crazy to say that because the guy's been around longer than anyone in that league, but their home form's not very good, Dagenham. So I'd say Dagenham. The only thing, I think Dagenham probably be dead certs. I think York or Hartlepool could either. I think Hartlepool may slip in it, but not an easy one to predict. But I think Dagenham are gone. Not yet, but in my opinion, I don't think they're going to get out of that bottom two.
This might make me very unpopular with certain fans that are listening. I must be honest with you. I'm looking at teams like Dagenham and Stevenage, and Crawley, and I'm thinking, do you know what, guys? It's time to go. Because they're not Football League teams in my eyes. When I was growing up, they weren't Football League teams. I know that's sort of against the whole spirit of the whole point of us being, coming from non-league through to the Football League. But I'm thinking, I want some of the bigger sort of traditional league teams back in the league that we've lost. The likes of the Grimsby Towns and people like that. The likes of even your Tranmeres. I know they've only been gone a year, but I just think, come on, we want some of those teams back in.
Well, of course, next year we could have Eastleigh back up, couldn't we? So they're a vintage old team as well, Nick, aren't they? That's the way it's going, though, isn't it? It's the money, isn't it? Eastleigh have picked up subs now, and the league. Cheltenham, obviously, Cheltenham got an amazing record. I think they've been beaten at home for like 4 months. Gary Johnson, Cheltenham's just done a great job there. So I'm looking forward to him coming back up next season.
It's actually interesting when you look at the conference, and we're talking about Cheltenham. We expect Cheltenham to come up. Forest Green are in the mix. I mean, those two are fighting out for the title, and they're leaps ahead of anyone else in that league. But Grimsby and Tranmere are in the playoff places. When I talk about traditional Football League clubs, there's not that many in actually the conference anymore. Not traditionally what I consider league clubs. Kidderminster had a brief spell. Macclesfield were not traditionally, I don't think, you'd consider a Football League club.
No, they weren't.
But then some of the big names like Torquay are in trouble of going even further down the pyramid. Some of these clubs I'm thinking of, like Stockport County, have disappeared off the face of the earth. Darlington, they've disappeared completely. It's a strange situation, strange league now looking at the conference.
Yeah, it is. Stockport, I think, play about 2 or 3 levels down now, I believe, and Darlington, I think even further. But
further down, Hereford as well.
Yeah, Hereford, all financial problems, isn't it? And that's really what really sorted out a lot of teams was financial. Yeah, you look at the conference, you're probably looking at your Lincolns, Grimsby's, Tranmere. Like Tranmere's criminal, really, what happened with them. But I think it just shows you, doesn't it? If you don't get your finances right, you don't get your recruitment right as well. Because let's not forget, Tranmere went against their own manager, Ronnie Moore, which looks a really harsh betting scandal, which was nothing really when you look at it. Got rid of the manager, and they fell through the leagues after that, didn't they?
Yeah.
So I think sometimes your recruitment, your stability, all those sort of things, but basically financials, that's what caught a lot of clubs out. So yeah, I know what you mean, but I wouldn't be surprised to see sort of Cheltenham and Eastleigh to be in our league next year, which would be nice because they're all localish sort of games, aren't they?
Not too bad. Who are they? So who are we saying they're replacing again? Dagenham and Richmond. and
I think a toss up between York and Hartlepool. I wouldn't be sad to see York go, to be truthful. They're not my favourite team, but if you look at it, the problem you got is you want some of these northern teams to go. So Dagenham really want John Steele to work his magic, because for what I say, we've been quite lucky this year in the amount of local games. Localish we mean in terms of under 100 miles. But if you look at League One, there's a lot of northern teams that are struggling, and we're going to have probably about 3 or 4 of them in our league next year. So
who do you expect to see come down then from League One? I'm looking at the bottom 4 as it stands: Chesterfield, Crewe, Oldham, Colchester. Oldham, I'm going to say now, will go down. They've been in League One, I think, for something like 20 years consecutively. I think they have got the longest run of consecutive seasons in the same division of any team in the Football League. I think they've got the longest run. They've been in League One forever. I think it's time for them to... They've never really been challenging for promotion either, so there's only one... When you sort of stagnate like that, there's only one direction you're going to travel in, and that's down. I expect Oldham to be in League 2 next year. Crewe, sadly, as well. Colchester looked done already as well. So we're looking at maybe Chesterfield, Fleetwood or Shrewsbury. I think Chesterfield have got enough about them to stay up. I think they made a very bad appointment at the start of the season, putting Dean Saunders in charge. I thought that was a comical appointment, to be honest with you. So it's between Fleetwood and Shrewsbury, which is an interesting mix with the Mickey Mellon factor.
Well, it is. If you look at purely just based on money, Fleetwood and Shrewsbury are too worlds apart, because Fleetwood had just got in and got Shoda Amiobi on he's a free agent because Bolton could afford to keep him. Shrewsbury are basically trying to get anyone out of the doors. Obviously, Liam Lawrence went to Bristol Ravens and James Croydon went to Northampton. So you have to suggest. I know they've got a cup run to Shrewsbury, so that obviously helps them out a little bit. I've got the Colchester to get relegated. I just think that they've just flirted with that too many times. I tend to disagree. I think Chesterfield will get caught in it. I've seen a lot of their, and again, don't get me wrong, I don't base any of my assumptions on highlights, but a lot of the goals they're conceding just look to me like relegation teams. Crewe fighting well. I think Crewe will go down. Interesting that Ajay, who was on loan from Cardiff to us, is now at Crewe. Interestingly, so he's going to level up and got man of the match this weekend actually against Walsall. And I think Blackpool. I just don't think there's so much going on in that club. I still fancy that they will just self-destruct internally, Blackpool, and I just think they will come down. And I think really I want Blackpool to come down because I really like Blackpool and it's a nice day out of the seaside. So that's a selfish reason I want them relegated.
What happens if Blackpool come down and we go up?
Then that just basically mucks up my selfishness. No, to be fair, I did base it on selfishness because I want to get. I've not done Blackpool's grounds. Colchester I've not either, so they're two new grounds for if they do. But just going back to Chesterfield, criminal what they did. Dean Saunders, avoid him like a plague.
That's ridiculous. What were they thinking with that appointment?
I don't know. I don't think Saunders has just got this great agent who keeps reminding him of what a great player he was at Liverpool and Villa and everything like that. But he's done nothing in the managerial world. And, I just don't understand that. But Chesterfield, I know when we went there, didn't we? Chesterfield got a lovely new stadium. Reportedly spent quite a bit of money as well. So I don't know. I don't understand why. I'm not saying that money should always dictate where you finish, because it obviously doesn't, because we're proving that along with Accrington this season. But Chesterfield does surprise me. But when I look at them and I look at the goals they're conceding, they just look to me like they're gonna drop out, I reckon.
You're talking about wage budgets. That brings us on to my last question as we look ahead to the end of the season. Leicester City have the 17th lowest wage bill of all the Premier League teams. The only teams that have sort of less expensive wage bills are the three promoted teams that came up last season. Everyone really wants them to win the league. I really, really, really want them to win the league. I think it's gone now, though.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends how they bounce back. They've only lost 3 games now all season, and arguably the Arsenal game they were comfortable. I felt with 11 against 11, and they just ended up making a training game. I don't know. I don't think there's enough pressure on them. It'd be interesting how they go. It's interesting how they bounce back. I'd love them to win the league. Yeah, there's loads of stats going around about them, isn't there? About their squad was assembled for around about 22 million quid, and I think £8 million of that was on one player. So it's quite amazing. It's good. I think it's good for football in general. You don't want all the big money boys winning it, but then I would argue that the Premiership's an interesting league at the moment because there's a lot of players in there who, like we said before, when Everton turned down a bid of £30+ million for Stones, and you've got a Chinese club offering the money they did for Payet, reportedly, clubs don't have to sell now. So, you look at Villa, who Liverpool have basically had a field day with on Sunday. But Villa would go down as probably one of the strongest teams in the Championship. It's reportedly about £100 million for any relegated team. So, for all the people going, oh, poor Villa, they're going to go into the Championship, and that, I think, in the end, the Premiership will just end up creeping away from the Championship. There'll be too much of a difference between the scales. But Leicester's great. I want them to be in the Champions League. I want them to be qualified automatically. I don't want them going through the 4th place rigmarole. And yeah, it's interesting. I'm
going to put money, though, that's Tottenham. That's where my money's going. I think Spurs are going to win the league.
Yeah, I would disagree with you. I think if Leicester don't win it, then Tottenham must be. Arsenal, I don't think. I look at Arsenal, the only good thing about it is they got Welbeck coming back, but how long is he going to last for? Yeah, I think Spurs look decent, but Man City, how depressing is Man City? You're losing 3-0 at home to Leicester, because your next home game getting done 2-1 against Spurs. So they had it in their hands, home games against teams around them, and they just haven't performed.
The 9 Years Podcast. Podcast, the podcast of choice for Peter Hawkins and Stuart Castledine. Available every Thursday on iTunes and YouTube.
Before we start the birthdays game this week, Stuart, changing it up slightly, is that we're going to play a little bit of music to accompany the birthdays game, just in the background there, but it has a link. This song has been chosen as it links to a footballing story from the weekend that does have a Wimbledon connection. Now, okay. I actually think it's quite a simple one this week, but the Wimbledon connection might make people think a little bit. Okay?
Okay.
So, here is the song. I'm just pressing play on it now. Does this sound familiar to you?
No, I can't say it does.
Doesn't ring any bells. Okay.
No.
Well, you might just have heard the title of the song there. It is 6 Underground by Sneaker Pimps. So if you have an idea what footballing story I could be relating to this weekend, just give us a tweet at 9YRS Podcast and let us know what you think. Let's go on to the birthdays then, Stu.
Cool.
Starting off with one of your favourites and mine, Paris Hilton.
Lovely. She's been around for ages again, hasn't she? Do you know what I mean? Crikey. Was she in prison? I thought she was in prison, was she? Or something, or she get let out for good behaviour?
No idea. You know about these celebrities more than I do.
I'm not, to be fair, her name's not been mentioned around an awful... But she's been around a little while. I think she's late 20s at least. Actually, what was she, late 20s? 26.
She's a lot older than that, would you believe? She's 35 this year.
Wow, the makeup and the work she's had done.
Well, yes. But I've not really heard from her for a very long time, so I don't know what she's up to now. Probably not a lot. John Travolta is the next one.
Wow, that's a mix, isn't it? Crikey, from that to that. He's got to be late 50s.
You're not... Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I reckon he's... maybe he's 58.
Yeah, not far off, but he's actually on the other side of 60 now. He's just turned 62 years of age.
Wow.
Do you have a particular favourite John Travolta film? I'd imagine you'd be sort of a Saturday Night Fever or a Grease fan.
Yeah, guilty pleasure, probably more of a Grease. Saturday night. I need to say Saturday Night Takeaway. That
is back on Saturday, listeners.
That is back, isn't it?
That is.
How boring is Saturday Night TV without Living Out on Deck?
Do you know what? I know. They're only on for like 6 or 7 weeks as well, but it should be on every week, really. Saturday
Night TV is so boring. Anyway, we digress. No, Grease, because I just think him with Olivia Newton-John is just, Grease is a classic, isn't it? So, yeah, that's my favourite.
Stu, you're the gift that keeps on giving. Last one, Valencia manager Gary Neville.
How old he looks at the moment, or how old is 50?
How old is he actually, as opposed to... Well, he's not too bad, because he did actually win at last on the weekend.
Yeah, it showed a bit of emotion as well. I'm not surprised he'd probably get the sack, which wouldn't do his credentials very much. Well, wouldn't do any good at all. He's obviously retired. He must be close to 39, I reckon.
He's just the other side of 40, 41. So he obviously... I remember him retiring from football. Now, he must have been a lot older than I thought he was at the time as well. So, there you go.
It's a shame, because Gary Neville, to be fair, I think he was brave taking the job. He obviously got the Valencia job because of his connections with the owner there. But I have to say, no other manager would have gone straight into a Valencia job, do you know what I mean? So, fair play to him, but he's having his... he's got his work cut out there.
He's got a hard job on his hands. Right, listeners, you were listening to the birthdays game to the sound of 6 Underground by Sneaker Pimps, a classic tune. If you know what football-related story we're linking to this song, please let us know on Twitter at 9YRS Podcast. There is a Wimbledon link, okay? And if you can even tell us what the Wimbledon link is, we'll be even more impressed. Right, with that out of the way, it's time for our unnecessary censors.
Gareth Ainsworth and his number 2, who I'm not too sure who it is, remind me very much of our old friend Crawley, Steve Evans. It was no surprise in the second half, after having ache of Gareth Ainsworth and his number 2, that he just started giving. I don't like it. I think personally Gareth Ainsworth should be better than that. And I wasn't over impressed, and I'm a lot of love lost. And I was a big Gareth Ainsworth fan when he was at Wimbledon and Premiership days, but I'm not too much of a fan of his.
Right, looking ahead to the weekend action then, let's have a look at the League 2 games first before we look ahead to our trip to Barnet and our visit from Carlisle on Tuesday. Stu, what games, if any, sort of took your eye, have taken your eye, have made you sit up and take notice? I'll get my words out one way or another from Saturday.
Bristol Rovers are at home to Morecambe, so yeah, I expect Bristol Rovers to keep their form going. Although it would be nice if Morecambe could go there and kick a few of them, obviously because we go there very quickly. Call it home to Plymouth. Will Plymouth keep going? Obviously, where they are. Luton home to Hartlepool. Not a great lot of fixtures, really, is it? It's not really much going on.
Not a great deal, no. Obviously, Oxford versus Accrington is a big game at the top of the table. Northampton, Wycombe as well. So there's a few, but nothing particularly special. We obviously have Barnet. We are travelling to our first visit to the Hive Stadium. Our trips to Underhill were not the most pleasant for the previous few seasons. So new stadium for us. What are we expecting? It'll be a difficult game. They're struggling. They're near the foot of the table, but I think it'll be a tough game. Yeah,
Barnet's really interesting actually. When you look at their form and when you look at actually the breakdown of it, they've won 8 games at home out of 14. And have a 10 plus 10 goal difference. Yet if you go away, they only won 2 and had 10 defeats. So classic home and away team really. Last time out we beat them 2-0, so a bit of a 2-0 at home, which is obviously not surprising according to their away form, with a strike from Lyle Taylor and then a late one from Riggs. So yeah, the thing is our form isn't great there. Let's be fair. We had a year in 2012 where we got beat 4-0, and then we had a 1-1 draw there as well. We can forget a 4-0 defeat Underhill was there. That was a great day out.
It wasn't a great day out whatsoever, but yeah. But I think it'll be a hard game, but I am anticipating a victory. What's your prediction?
Yeah, I do. I think we're going to go in there and win. Let's forget we're unbeaten in 8 and won the last 3 away from home. So we're going in great form. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win. That's
what I was going to say as well. We'll do Carlisle predictions ahead of time. Obviously, I don't tend to predict games until the one before that's out of the way. But let's look ahead to that midweek visit. What do you reckon?
Yeah, Carlisle, we haven't beaten them at all yet since we got into League 2. So not to be a bit of a downer too much, but yeah, drew 1-1 at their place early in the season. I thought we played quite well. Last time we played Carlisle, lost 3-1 at home. So yeah, the form, or to say the form guide is a lot better than the old head-to-head. But I'm hoping that Carlisle have got a lot of games coming up. Like I say, going to Accrington in midweek, so I'm hoping that we're going to start catching up on them. And I think we will start improving our home form. And yeah, I reckon we're going to win again. I reckon it could be about 2 or 3.
I'm not as confident when you say that. I think we're going to get we'll get a point. I think it'll be a draw. Just my gut feeling looking ahead to the games. That could all change depending on what happens at Barnet on Saturday, but there we go. Right, before we go, Stu, do you have any ideas then of which 2 teams we have beaten 4-0 so far since our return to the Football League in 2011?
Well, one was an easy one because it's just, I remember it like yesterday. We beat Pompey 4-0 when they couldn't get enough tickets at our ground and then relayed it back on a live feed, didn't they, back at their ground?
Yes, I'm sure all their fans would have very much enjoyed as they watched Trevor Carson with his famous squad number lose 4-0.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Sammy Moore with a great finish as well. So the other 4-0, I'm thinking, I'm not totally sure to be true. Mine's probably a guess. Was it Burton Albion?
It was. It was a good guess.
That was when they were top, wasn't it? When we bashed them when they were top.
No.
Was it not?
No, when they were top and they were doing really well last season, we beat them 3-0.
Okay.
With Akinfenwa scoring a couple of times. But in our first season back, so it would have been sort of 2012, we beat them. I think it was very early into Gary Rowett's reign as manager. Very early. And we beat them 4-0. I think Sammy Moore scored that day as well. So, yeah. It was a game that I'd forgotten about as well, if I'm being honest with you. I was looking back to Luton and thinking of other games where we'd scored 4, and I could only really remember Portsmouth, and then we beat Cheltenham 4-1, and we know that. We beat Exeter 4-1 last season. The Burton game seemed to have just totally slipped out of mine, and possibly many others' memories, for some strange reason.
And how mad is it that we've got a good record against Burton, who could be a championship club next year, top of League 1?
They could be a championship club. I have a feeling, though, if they were to go up to the championship, they'd probably come straight back down and then have a bit of a yovel on our hands.
Possibly, but a nice club, Burton. Nice club.
Our record was decent, except for the
6-2 there, wasn't it?
6-2 there. A 6-2, by the way, just to tie this up in a nice little package, as Homer Simpson would say. In that 4-0 win over Burton and that 6-2 defeat, Brian Harrison scored in both games. He scored, I think it was his only goal for us actually that season in the 4-0 victory with a sort of his chest, or maybe he scored a couple of others, but they were both from like a yard out, weren't they? He didn't score from further a yard out for quite a while for us. Brian Harrison scored twice for the weekend for Stevenage.
He did, and one of them was about a yard out.
There you go. He's in the right place. Hey, you've got to be in the right place at the right time.
Definitely.
That brings us to the end of this week's show then. Stu, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don't forget, updates from Barnet and Carlisle will be available on Twitter, Instagram and Periscope. Search for @9YRS Podcast. I'll be doing updates from the Hive on Saturday from my position in the press box, so very much looking forward to that. So keep an eye out for those. And don't forget to join us next week when we will be joined by, well, former Sunderland winger Adam Johnson, just to catch up with him and see what he got up to during the half-term holiday. We'll see you then.
We start again. No, 10 minutes, I'll be. Sorry. The raise at the door going, I know you're a bit. I'm thinking, I don't know how I say it in sign language. That's 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
You want dish dinner, right? That'd be lovely. Sorry, mate. If we go from where, what games, yeah?
Yeah.
Sorry,